Weekend edition here at the 1 Degree Outside Weather Network. Meteorologist Matt Noyes, thanks for being with us here as we go into what looks to be another stormy period. Just a reminder, we've always got New England's only weather network streaming on your smart TV, online, and in our app. And speaking of the app, if you haven't downloaded it yet, free and 5 stars, you're going to love it getting into the storm. I'd just be careful when you're a couple days out because it is data driven for a lot of those numbers. Of course, we do oversee it, but at the same time, we're not going to oversee every single city and town in New England, right? We do put our videos in here, though, and we can push notify. So definitely worth having to get the latest updates from us. If you just want an overview on the weekend, look, we've had a couple snow showers around. We're going to get a few more this evening. Tomorrow, actually pretty quiet until we get late in the day, evening, and night, and that's when things begin to change. So a few snow showers today, a few more this evening that will leave a few slick spots. We'll look at that in just a minute. All eyes, of course, are on Sunday evening through Monday night. Long duration there. Some similar signals to that big storm we had in January, which means some double-digit snow potential signals showing up. We're going to dive into that and look at what's a little bit different this time around as well. Okay, as for today, you've got high temperatures, colder in eastern New England than in western New England. How weird is that? And that's even with a wind coming out of the north and at times the northeast. There's cold air coming in from the north and east, and we're going to look at that. It's an important player in the forecast. Overnight tonight, temperatures drop down to the teens and 20s for many of us here, setting the stage. Again, not so much for during the day tomorrow, maybe in southwest Connecticut during the afternoon, but moreover as we get to the evening and night. As a meteorologist, I've been looking at this pattern over the last couple of days and getting really interested in it, and here's why. Because when you look at the atmospheric energy in the reds and purples, right? Notice that it all comes together just south of New England. It goes deeper than that. At about 18,000 feet up, which is what you're looking at here, you start to develop a really strong, what we call closed-off storm center. This is really important because when you can stack a storm, and by that I mean you get a surface storm and you get a storm in the mid-level of the atmosphere right over it, that stack storm is when you get your explosive development. And a lot of times you get the surface storm pulled right underneath that upper level disturbance. And what it does is it really takes off and strengthens. That's why this setup is loaded with potential. Then, of course, it continues to move by the time we get along about late Monday into Tuesday. But there's another player in this that's going to be the unsung hero, so to speak, of the weather setup, which is to say you've got a big dome of high pressure that's making its way out of Hudson Bay. Watch what happens. This is surface temperature. And as I play things through from this morning to the afternoon, while it warms up, you'd expect that. Here it comes. Look at that cold air pushing in. There's that northeast wind. This is what I was telling you about. You're actually feeding in cold air from the north and northeast as high pressure strengthens over eastern Canada, muscles its way in. It's almost like a backdoor cold front in winter. Why is that important? Because it reinforces what little and marginal cold air we have to set the stage for that textbook setup. With the storm coming off the coast, you're going to now have a temperature clash that you wouldn't have had otherwise if it weren't for that high pressure dome over eastern Canada. Here's the other impact of that. It's actually the reason that we have snow showers in the forecast for this evening. Here's why. Because remember, I told you it's like a backdoor cold front that comes in, right? So watch what happens when we get to this evening. Bam! You light up these snow showers. Now, there's not going to be a lot of accumulation. It's going to be a coating in spots. Could be a ½ inch to an inch when you get from the Worcester Hills points west, right? Especially with a little bit of elevation. But the really interesting part about this is that it may coat the roads and actually create new black ice as we head into tonight, or even snow-covered roads in spots. Again, it's interesting. It's probably away from the immediate shoreline because of the fact that the colder, drier air is spreading in off the ocean. So you have to be almost inland a little bit in order to capitalize on that. And as we get through Sunday, I told you most of the day is fine, right? As you get to the afternoon, though, the snow may start spreading into parts of southwest Connecticut, and here it is expanding as we get toward evening. We have to be careful on this because the details are absolutely going to change. So we don't want to commit to details that are going to end up not being right. But at the same time, we want to make sure we give you a good idea of what we're watching, and then we can, of course, continue to issue the updates through the course of the weekend. Here's the surface storm. Here it is strengthening and really taking off. Danielle's been telling you how it will bomb out off the coastline. Well, if it does that close enough, you've got a problem, because now you're dealing with a major storm that's going to be deepening, strengthening quickly, which means a lot of wind that'll come into play as well. So now things get more interesting because we talked about the fact that the cold air is just barely coming in enough to set up this textbook clash, but it's coming in. So really what this means is, first of all, we know there's going to be changes to the forecast. You're going to have to figure out exactly what consistency snow you're getting where. All right, you got to figure out your storm track as well. There are the big storm signals. We just looked at those. But this is a wetter, heavier snow than what we had with the January storm. It's going to be harder to attain 20-inch amounts. Not saying it couldn't happen, but it's going to be heavier and wetter. And the problem with that is that that's going to put more strain on tree limbs, more strain on power lines. There's a long duration potential here as well. So DPW, DOT crews, you may be working a number of hours if this storm comes to fruition the way it's looking like it could. There's a damaging wind potential at the coastline. And again, with the snow load even farther inland, that may come with a blizzard potential as well. If this thing takes off the way I showed you meteorologically that it could, oh, it would be a blizzard. I mean, you wouldn't get out of that. So I think right now it's just a matter of storm track on that, right? But Monday, that means coastal flood potential as well. So am I telling you it's definitely going to be a blizzard? No, I'm not doing that yet. I am telling you that all the ingredients, if you wanted to bake that cake, are sitting right there on the kitchen counter. And here you go. This is what we got in terms of wind gusts on Monday. That's probably your peak wind gusts. And you can see why it's high stakes, why it's a big deal. There's the center of the storm with almost an eye-like feature. But actually, the way we've colored this here at 1 degree outside, the yellow is where you get gusts over 40. That's going to cause some isolated damage at least. And then the reds are where you start to get gusts over 60. And the purples are gusts to hurricane force over 74 miles an hour. And that may try and tickle Nantucket. I may try and tickle the outer portion of the Cape. Again, depends on storm track. But I think I'm probably doing a good job of laying this out for you of why it is we think it's so important to stay on top of the updates over the course of this weekend, right? Obviously, it's going to churn the seas. Not at first, but as the wind picks up and we maintain that northeasterly wind, we're going to find issues developing with regard to the waves. How big are they going to build? Well, check this out. About 20 to 25 feet when you get offshore. Not at first, again, but during the day Monday, that's where we should go. Breakers will be about 8 to 12 feet, and that means beach erosion a possibility. But look at this, Wilkinson Basin, just off of Cape Ann, 22-foot waves by Monday afternoon. Is that amazing or what? There's a lot of power going to be coming in. And that's going to happen regardless of the storm track, right? You're going to have to churn the seas. That's why there's already the coastal flood advisories, and there may be warnings that come up because of the fact that you're talking about, such a long what we call fetch, that wind that comes over the ocean. So you get the waves offshore, again, the 8 to 12-foot breakers onto the shoreline. Flood potential's minor to moderate at a high tide that'll be about, depending on where you are, 3:30 in the morning on Monday and about 3:50 in the afternoon on Monday. And, of course, one of the things we talked about is that beach erosion potential, but TBD on the exact kind of trajectory where that would line up. What about snow, right? Have I intentionally saved that till the end? Absolutely. Has it been to get you to watch longer? Absolutely not. It's because it's the least predictable part of it, right? So we want to get you across what we know and then be honest about what we don't. Well, look, probability of greater than half a foot of snow. The yellows are where you get a 50-50 shot or better. So that would be basically up to about, let's say, Route 495 southward. I bet it goes beyond that. I'd say, okay, what do you think about the possibility of a 9-inch or greater snow? Well, that would all of a sudden now really highlight portions of southeastern Massachusetts down onto the Cape and the islands as well. But it's interesting, keep in mind, you're marginal on the temperature. So we got to see exactly, I don't think there'll necessarily be a rain-snow line. There may be in the beginning. I think you're going to have a difference in consistency of snow, though, that may be important. So you put it all together. Look, again, I think that to get fine details and hold you to it, you're going to have to get closer in. Generally, I look at this and say there's double-digit potential in the area in purple. There's half-foot potential in the area in blue, and there's plowable potential of at least a couple inches when you get into the area in white. So a lot of us get into at least some amount of that, right? Obviously, we're going to keep you updated. It's what we do. And if you like these updates, we're so happy to do them free for everybody. That's the way weather should be, right? But we could use your support. And so many of you are, over 1,000 of you are members now. Membership.onedegreeoutside.com. See if there's a level that works for you. We will see you with updates over the weekend. Keep it tuned to 1 Degree Outside, New England's Weather Network.
Thanks so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this 1 Degree Outside video.
Get exclusive content, support the mission at membership.onedegreeoutside.com. And don't forget, free and 5 stars on the App Store and Google Play. Search the number 1 Degree Outside Weather.